Which struggling hitter should you try and buy low on right now? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Memorial Day, May 26th. Hope everybody is enjoying their Memorial Day weekend. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Chris Towers. Let's take a look at some hitters to buy low on right now. First up, Gunnar Henderson. If you can buy low at all, let's try to do it because he has been a letdown thus far. I will mention we're recording this in a few days in advance. So if he hits 5 home runs in 5 days leading up to this, just know that, we meant good. Chris, why are you trying to buy low on Gunnar Henderson?
Well, in part, it's just that this is a guy who was a first-round pick who isn't performing like one. And I'm always going to buy low on that kind of guy if there's an opportunity for it. But there are specific reasons behind it as well. The biggest one is, for as disappointing as he's been, he's hitting the ball harder than ever. His hard hit rate is 57%. His average exit velocity is 94.6 miles per hour. Those are both in the top 15 of all hitters. So that alone is a good indication that physically Gunnar Henderson is fine and he's just a little off, right? He's hitting a few too many balls on the ground. He's striking out a little bit too much. I think that stuff will normalize for him. And it kind of already has. In the month of May, yes, his strikeout rate's still a little too high. He has an 861 OPS in the month of May. That tells me that Gunnar Henderson's going to be just fine. His sprint speed's still very good. All the physical tools still look excellent for Gunnar Henderson. So I think we're just seeing a weird slow start from a guy who missed a decent amount of spring training. That's the biggest explanation I can come up with for Gunnar Henderson having a disappointing start.
All right, let's slide over to Michael Harris, who had a preseason ADP inside of the top 50. He's currently outside of the top 150 in his overall ranking. He's hitting around 220, 3 homers, 7 steals. And Chris, we've seen Michael Harris be very streaky in the past, obviously has bad plate discipline, but just 2 years ago, got off to a slow start. And from June on, he was a near 900 OPS bat. So I think that's something Michael Harris could get back to again.
Yeah, I think this is just what Michael Harris is. And that, not, to be clear, a 603 OPS hitter, but a guy who will occasionally have a 603 OPS for a couple of months. He did that, like you mentioned, in 2023. He got off to a very poor start. One of our listeners coined the nickname Michael Hitless Jr. for him, I believe was the phrasing of it. And yeah, that's what he was for a while. He was hitting 170 at the end of May, and he was incredible from that point on. I think he hit 320. It was 17 homers over the final 4 months of the season. That's pretty much what I expect from Michael Harris. Not those exact numbers. You can't always count on the guys who are quote unquote due to make up for their struggles, but do I expect Michael Harris to be a top 50 player the rest of the way? Yeah, I mostly do.
All right, let's talk about Brenton Doyle, who dealt with some quad soreness earlier in the season. He also had a devastating personal loss off the field. And sometimes we do forget about that human element, but I think it is totally reasonable that perhaps that has affected his production so far this season. But the plate discipline has actually improved even more. The expected stats look much better than the actual stats, Chris. So yeah, Brenton Doyle feels like a pretty clear buy right now.
Feels like one of the more obvious ones out there. Last year, he had a 329 expected WOBA and he had a 328 WOBA. This year, he has a 325 expected WOBA and a 268 WOBA. You would expect guys who hit at Coors Field half the time to outperform their expected WOBA. That is, there have been 61 players on the Rockies to have at least 400 plate appearances in a season since 2015. That's the StatCast era. And 48 of those 61 have outperformed their expected WOBA. This year, it's only 3 out of 7 have outperformed. And Brenton Doyle is by far the biggest underperformer. It's one of the biggest underperformers we've ever seen in the Rockies during the StatCast era. So this one feels fairly obvious. There doesn't seem to be much skills decline. Brenton Doyle will be fine moving forward.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be back right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball Today Express, taking a look at some hitters to buy right now. Next up is Yainer Diaz, who is hitting just .224, 5 home runs, a .611 OPS at the time of recording. But he's underperforming his numbers quite a bit. And another one who, questionable plate discipline, but got off to a slow start last year. And then from June 1st on, he was amazing. That doesn't mean it's a guarantee that it will happen again, but I feel pretty good about, the way that he's hitting the ball right now. The results will come eventually for Yainer Diaz.
Yes, 636 OPS as of the end of May of last season. And then he was awesome. I think the case is very similar to Michael Harris, where it's just, look, these guys have bad plate discipline. They make a lot of contact, so they can live with it. You can live with being one of the most frequent chasers in the game if you make contact on 87% of your swings in the strike zone and 58%, or 77% of your swings overall, which is what Yainer Diaz's numbers are. You can live with that. It's not ideal. And there are going to be times when you make a little too much contact on those chases and you hit a lot of bad balls. And I think that's probably what we're seeing from Yainer Diaz, but the underlying numbers still look fine. 260 XBA, 473 X slug. He's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting a lot of line drives. I think we will get a very, very good stretch from Yainer Diaz the rest of the way. He's still a top 5-ish catcher for me.
All right, we're going to cheat a little bit with this last one, Chris. I wouldn't consider him struggling or a buy low. Let's call it a buy medium on Brent Rooker, who does have 11 home runs this season, but the OPS is not anywhere close to where it was last year, and he's another one who's underperforming his expected numbers. He's still hitting the ball incredibly hard, and man, as the weather starts to heat up in Sacramento, in that ballpark, I think now is the time to maybe try and buy on some of their hitters.
He is on pace for only like 73 RBI right now. That is wild for a guy that already has 11 homers, is on like a 35 homer pace. That's a really low number. So I think that speaks to probably a little bit of bad luck, maybe a little bit of the guys ahead of him not getting on base enough. But yeah, the batting average 245, he was never going to hit 293 again, but his expected batting average is actually higher than it was last season. His expected slugging percentage still 531. That's very good. His overall expected numbers right around where they were last season. 380 ex-WOBA last year, 372 this year. And he's playing in a much better hitting environment. So Sacramento, I think, is going to be a great hitter's park moving forward. It's already been a very good one, but like you said, as the weather heats up, balls could just be flying out of there. So I think Brent Rooker hasn't been bad. I think he will be great moving forward.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.